Escape the plantation, I'm breaking away. Never looking back, it's a brand new day. Profit on my mind, success in my sight. Living life my way, everything feels right.
Welcome to Escape the Plantations podcast. I'm your host, Mimi Stacks. And before we get started, you know what I gotta say. Death to the employee within and rise to the boss. Death to the employee within and rise to the boss. Now, I escaped the plantation, the job plantation that is, over 20 years ago. And I'm actually doing this podcast to help potential bosses who feel stuck and are trapped in the job market and need to break free so that they can ascend to the world of boss. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully you're doing well. I am actually excited about the topic that we're going to be talking about because it, it's a slight, I don't know, it's an irritation to the soul. And for potential bosses who are listening to the Escape the Plantations podcast, you're going to need this particular lesson as you go through your journey so that you don't get caught up in master's web. Let's first understand this. I had to title this particular episode Pseudo-Bossing. What is Pseudo-Bossing? Pseudo-Bossing, pseudo means fake. Fake bossing. People say, why didn't you just name it fake bossing? Because I don't like how that sound. And I'm a boss. I choose what I want to say and what words I want to use. Pseudo-bossing sounds fitting for this particular topic. And it's also a name that I coined. Ain't nobody talking about pseudo-bossing. That's ETP all day. So let's get into it. Master don't like when people go out and try to break free, obviously, from the plantation. To him or her is a sin. Like the nerve of you. But one thing that master is good at is taking the temperature of his slaves. What do I mean when I say that? Master understands that he has to stay on top of how the slaves think, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, because without them, his or her operation can't go on. If you think you got a job and master ain't watching you, you crazy. Master knows more about you and your mindset than you do. And it knows when you're trying to break free or when you want to break free. And the consensus in the marketplace is that a lot of people are feeling like jobs are a plantation. They do feel like slaves when they clock in and clock out. They don't feel like they're getting the growth potential or meeting the potential that they have within themselves. They don't feel free. Okay? So because of that, master's like, look, don't make the escape and be a true boss. What we're going to do is we're going to set something up where we can still exploit you and use you and make money off of you, but you can still stay within the confines of the boxes that we put in place for you. So let's go into it. Well, what is pseudo-bossing? Pseudo-bossing is more likely a person that has no intention of entering the world of boss, but settles for acting like a boss for show or status. Now, this particular pseudo-boss is intentional, meaning that they intend to perpetrate the fraud. They know damn well they ain't no boss. And they have no intention on being. They just want to look the part because they understand that being a true boss takes work. And it's something that they may feel that they lack. And it's just easier to look the part than to play the part. But then you also have the pseudo boss by default. This is someone who really believes that they bossing. They really believe that they're a boss, or they're on that track of being a boss. Really truly want to enter the world of boss, but they're constantly lying to themselves and convincing themselves that there's something that they're not yet. Or they're being tricked by master to make them believe that they're boss, but they're really not bossing. It's interesting. Why would somebody want to fake it like they a boss when they not? Well, you have to understand, you guys. Boss is a representation of power and independence. It's also a representation of accomplishment and success. More importantly, being boss represents freedom. It's a different status. It's a higher status. This is why I say ascend to the world of boss. And so people want to be in those positions. They want to be boss, believe it or not. They may not want to act in a boss capacity of maybe dealing with the stress or the workload, but who doesn't want to be a boss? Who doesn't want to be free to do whatever they want to do and to call their own shots? Come on. So these impersonators come out of the woodwork and they're not really bossing, but the illusion is painted that they are. I'll give you an example. It was a guy on YouTube, a young guy, and he was driving in a was it Rolls Royce, and he talked about how he was I think he paid like $3,000 a month or something for it, and he was pseudo bossing. Like he wanted people to see his car, he wanted people to see his house. They later found out that his house was rented and that he didn't own it. And even if he did own it, and let's say he got a mortgage, you don't own it. You don't own the car. You don't own the house. You pseudo bossing. You're putting out a narrative and an illusion so that people can view you a certain way, so that you can be treated a certain way and be able to claim boss status without putting in boss work. Pseudo bossing. It's true. Not everybody wants to be a boss and take on boss responsibility. That's true. I've talked to different people, and not everybody feels like they want to be in the boss seat. But it's interesting. A lot of people don't want to be a boss, but everybody feels like they want freedom. Now, this is another topic to be discussed because what I've learned is that you have bosses who seek true freedom, and you have employee minded people who are willing to settle for feeling like they're free. There's a difference. There's a difference between feeling like you're free and being free. Master is aware of that. Master is aware of that. How do we carry out something where we can make our slaves feel like they're free, even though they're not free? Make them feel like they are earning their way, even though they are perpetual slaves for as long as they breathe. Employee-minded people love to look successful, but very few strive to be successful. You see the trend? Bosses strive to be successful. Employee-minded people strive to look successful. Bosses strive for true freedom. Employees just want to strive to feel free. They're willing to settle for the illusion. Employee minded people are indoctrinated to be slaves, but on the surface, they want to represent a status of pseudo boss. See, most people, they're so caught up in the plantation that they feel like they need a master to define what success is for them. So when they are carrying out this pseudo boss type identity that they're having, it's not even their own viewpoints or thoughts. It is the viewpoint of the master that is given to them to show them what success is. Master controls that on the plantation. The successful person is the employee of the week, the employee of the month. The successful person is the one that got a raise. The successful person is the one that got promoted. The successful person is the one that is pseudo boss that could tell you what to do. The successful person is the one that has authority without ownership. On the plantation, these are success points. This is what people give their life to accomplish. Whatever master says success is, they want it. They crave it. They do anything for it. They'll sell their souls for it just to get a taste of the Bossin. Just to get a taste of the boss because they don't feel like they can go through their own channels and means to manifest it. And that's why I say when we talk in pseudo bossing, it could be by default that, hey, you really are striving to be boss, and by default you hit pseudo boss because of particular situations that need to be corrected. And it could be intentional, where you are intending to deceive and play make believe to get people to look at you a certain way and to cheat and get boss status that you have not earned. So, what are the different types of pseudo bosses that are out there? Now, there's many different kinds, and I know I'm not going to be able to cover it all here, but you got the wimps and the wusses, right? I talk about them explicitly. I do, because I don't respect them. You got to understand. I don't think that they're bad people, but in the world of boss, I don't respect them. They're not someone that I strive to be like. So when you're dealing with the wimps and the wusses, they not only are pseudo bossing a lot of the times, they're pseudo talking. They talk fake. They try to boss fake, and they try to, how you going to boss from the plantation? You can't be sitting on the plantation 24/7 talking about some boss, boss, boss. It just doesn't work. So wimps, because they don't know how to self-actualize and activate to get to a point where they can ascend to the world of boss, they decide, hey, let me stay at the plantation. And I agree, they should stay at the plantation and create an illusion of boss there. Then you also have the managers and supervisors of many corporations. Now, I put them separate from wusses and wimps because some of these people who are pseudo bossing in respect to being managers and supervisors actually have true boss ambition, and they're just stuck on the plantation until they can figure out how to activate and move forward. Some of them say, hey, let me take these management positions so that I can practice being boss. So when I get into the real world of boss, I'll be a step ahead of the game. But either way, they're still pseudo bosses nonetheless. They are not real bosses. They have authority, yes. They have a title, yes. They have benefits that the other slaves and peasants on the plantation do not have, but they lack ownership. Most of them do not have ownership, and they don't control nothing when it comes to the decision making in reference to the company a lot of the times. That's not real boss. That's pseudo boss. Another one, which is one of my favorites. I love these people. These are the flashy slaves. These are the ones who are not boss at all, but because master has trained them to think a certain way, they wind up feeling like they're above everyone else because they're flashy, because they can buy things, and most of it financed, but they can buy things and look like they're powerful and look like they're wealthy. Now, make no misunderstanding, when we're talking about power and wealth, we are talking about boss. And this is not to say that a person on a plantation can't be a millionaire. Money is just money. But when we talk about ownership and power, that's different. And that's boss. And most of the flashy slaves are owned by their masters, but the masters allow them to be flashy because it further keeps them right where the master wants them, at the plantation. You can't go nowhere, flashy person. The flashiness costs. And since you don't want to pay the cost to be the boss, you have to pay and live your life as a slave and a consumer. You're just a flashy one. And if that's cool with you, it's cool with me. But people need to start to understand that everything that glitters ain't gold. And just because you see somebody pull up in a Bentley doesn't mean that they're doing well. And doesn't mean that they're boss. Doesn't mean that they have control over their life. Some of them flashy slaves pay the cost for the fraud. Let's believe it. And nobody wants to be in the cage and flashy in the cage. That shit is ridiculous. And true bosses don't look flashy anyway. You know, they respect their money, they respect the boss bread that they make, and they put it into things that's going to make them more money. But anyway, then you got your know-it-alls. These are pseudo bosses who feel that they can show that they're a boss utilizing their intellect. It's interesting because I used to think in a way where I felt like the person who was the boss was the one who was the smartest. I always used to think that. And at the height of my intelligence, I was the brokest. I was the brokest boss you ever seen. Because I didn't understand boss at the time. And you could, let's just put it out there. You could say I was pseudo bossing. Now, I dictated what I made. I did certain things to classify myself as boss, and I definitely took the hits. But that misunderstanding of feeling like I was smart, book smart, and, things of that nature, and making me feel like I was the smartest person in the room, I felt I was the bossiest in the room because of that. And that was a lie. It was an illusion. Instead of being flashy with material things, I was being flashy with my mind state and my mental and utilizing it to try to gain superiority. So, know it alls are pseudo bosses. They think they're smart, but at the end of the day, their boss status is null and void. It never was boss at all. And to distinguish myself from this particular know it all, pseudo boss, most know it alls don't have any accomplishments or results. I can say I had results. I can say I had accomplishments. You know what I mean? I was bossing, but I just misunderstood boss. And when I got into the world of boss, things became a lot clearer, I guess you could say. So now I'm going to run through this very quickly because we are running out of time. And I usually like to stay under 30 minutes, you guys. So I'm going to go over real quick the characteristics of a pseudo boss. We're going to go over this real quick. And then we're going to go into something I just have to mention to close this out. So when we talk about the characteristics of a pseudo boss, you're talking about somebody that's lazy. Lazy on many different levels, but mainly lazy, meaning that they just don't want to work on themselves to really be the boss that they really need to be. They're inconsistent. When they feel boss, they do something. When they don't feel boss, they do absolutely nothing. That's not enough. They're indecisive. If you can't make a decision, how are you going to be boss? You know what I'm saying? So that's a characteristic that I see a lot of them have. A lot of them are scared. And due to them being scared and fearful, again, they would rather look the part than to actually ride that fear out and just take it there. A lot of pseudo bosses live in Delulu land. They're very delusional, and I don't know why, and I'm not trying to figure it out. They always have excuses. There's always excuses, never results, never accomplishments, always excuses. And then they want somebody to praise them like they're the best thing in the world just because they say that they're boss and they're trying to claim a certain status. They always try to look perfect. They never want to make mistakes. Failure is like, ugh. You know, true bosses understand failure is just a way to help you get better. Pseudo bosses they want to look the part, so they got to look picture perfect for their audience, the people who they're performing for. Confused about what boss really is another one, and they view success on an external level. So when a pseudo boss comes in the picture, one that has no intention of ascending to the world's boss, that is, they don't look at the transformation inside and out. They just look at what they know other people can see. And that is what they use to gain boss validation. So now we're done with the characteristics. I want to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. I want to talk about Uber. Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, all of these places that are saying, hey, be a boss, work for us, get us rich, and stay poor. I don't agree with Uber. I don't agree with Lyft. And I think that people who do Uber and Lyft are pseudo bosses. And pseudo bosses doesn't mean bad. It just means what it means. A lot of people think that they're a boss and they're under the illusion that they're a boss thanks to the master. Again, in the beginning, I talked about the master putting forth the illusion to make you feel like you are free so that you don't leave him or her. They need you on their plantation. And if they have to modify the plantation in a way that gets you to believe or feel that you are free, they're willing to do that. To have you feel free is better than to lose you to the world of boss. They don't want to lose you to the world of boss. They don't want to lose you. So what they do is they create a plantation for pseudo bosses. Okay, you don't want to be a manager, you don't want to be a supervisor, okay, you still don't feel free. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to keep you in these chains, but we're just going to extend the chains to give you more room to walk about. But you're still on our plantation. Your ass still belong to us. Now, for a person on the other side that's looking at it, they're saying, what are you talking about, Mimi? I'm a boss. I get up when I want to. I get in my car. I control how many drives I do, what type of people I'm looking for, luxury, this, that. I choose the area I want to work in. I'm a boss. And I would say to them that I respectfully disagree. And the reason why I disagree is because one of the things that I noticed that Uber drivers, Lyft drivers don't have control over outside of the platform itself is they don't have control over their pay. A friend of mine, he did Uber, and he told me in the beginning when they wanted slaves to be attracted to Uber, when they were doing this slave experiment, a lot of people were flocking to Uber and Lyft, right? And at that time, the rates were really, really good. People were making $1,200, $2,000 plus a week. Way more than what they would have made at the plantation, at the conventional plantation, that is. And that's fine and dandy. But what happened? Well, Uber got bigger. They had shareholders. People bought into their stock. And a lot of the plantation owners said no. We don't give a damn about what they feel. They've gotten used to feeling like their boss, and a lot of them are not going to give that up. They're not going to give their freedom up. They will take the pay cut. So they did that experiment, and guess what? They put together the pay cut. Now, my friend told me, he said, I used to make X amount of dollars when I took him to the airport. He said, now I drive to the airport. You know how much I'll get? It'll be like a $42 charge to the person that's getting the Uber. Out of that $42, the Uber driver would be lucky to get $6. He said he said for that same ride, I would usually get at least 15. If you are a boss and you don't control what you get paid, you don't even have an option to negotiate. That's pseudo-bossing. I have clients, corporate clients as well. And regardless of the clientele that I service, I always have the say so. I always have the say so on whether that rate is good, whether we need to negotiate that rate. You can give me an offer, but I can always counter that offer. And if I'm in a situation where you're just giving me a certain amount and it's take it or leave it, that tells me that I don't have the freedom that you claim that I really have, because I don't have the freedom to even negotiate a fee. If you don't have control over your boss bread, how will you have control over anything else in your business? Bossing for who? Bossing how? They hardly give you anything. And I heard with Uber Eats is even worse. They'll send you out halfway across the world to deliver a Chick-fil-A sandwich and give you $2. But that's bossing? It's pseudo-bossing. That's what it is. It's pseudo-bossing. I like to call it potential boss exploitation. PB exploitation. Independent contractor fraud. The master loves to play with you. Okay? You think the master want to give you opportunity? No, they love to play with you. They love to test things on you. Master still controls you. Master is still giving you crumbs. When you don't understand boss, it's easy to become a victim. Pseudo bosses always go back to the plantation. Now, clarification and context alert. When I say pseudo bosses always go back to the plantation, I mean the ones who are not intentional. The ones who are trying to deceive you into thinking that they're boss. Because true bosses are going to learn, and then they're going to activate, and they're going to ascend. They're going to rise. The boss is going to rise within them, and they're going to ascend to the world of boss. True bosses are going to see that you're deceiving them, and they're going to say, With that being said, you guys, I don't know what you got from this episode. Hopefully, it was an eye-opening episode for you. This is a controversial topic, and I can only imagine how many people disagree. And you know what? Dig this. If you disagree, that's okay. You can disagree. If there's anything you agree with, you can keep that. But if you don't get anything from this episode, get this. You don't need the plantations. The plantations need you. This is Mimi Stacks, signing out. Boss well.
Escape the plantation, some breaking away.